Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today it's time for the 4080 Super. Now, Supers, they have upgraded this one a little bit, although it's weirdly still got the same amount of VRAM as the 4070 Ti Super, which obviously had a slight incremental update, so it does still only have 16GB of VRAM. When you go from 4080 to 4080 Super, the TPU goes up from 38 to 40, the SMs go up from 76 to 80, CUDAs go from 9728 to 10240, then tensors go up from 304 to 320, and the ray tracing cores go up from 76 to 80. Yes, I have just read that off of a note sheet underneath the camera. Now the price, MSRP wise, is going to be $959. So that comes down a little bit from the $1199 that we would have had for the original 4080. And yes, I did just want to check that it definitely was $1199 in MSRP at launch, because they've obviously brought it down more than 200 now. But obviously launch last year, this new year. So effectively, on paper, you get a higher spec card for less money. Now, that on paper sounds great, but it is still technically the same card with a few little bit more. Anyway, so what we do need to cover is I have a range of cards to show you here today. I'm allowed to show you the Founders Edition with the overclock models now because of the changes that happened within cards being late and stuff. So I have the Zotac Trinity Black, I have the Palit Jetstream, and the Founders Edition, which all come in at $959. So these are all MSRP cards. And that is, even though that, you know, these have technically got a little overclock on them. The Founders Edition obviously isn't a reference card, it is technically overclocked from stock. Anyway, we won't go into that. But then I do have the Strix, which is going to come in at 1215, so 1215 GBP. And then the Master from Aorus, which is going to be 1179. So this one is about £200 more expensive. This one is about £250-ish. You know, Top Gear maths, more expensive than the rest. And I think it's good that we do have a good range so that we can see the performance differences between them as well, and you can make your decisions at home. But one of the things I do want to stress straight from the start is size. And they say size matters, but in the case of computer parts, sometimes smaller is better than bigger, because the Master is, oh my days, this thing is absolutely enormous. It's 356 millimeters by 149 millimeters, which when you bring a graph up to compare it, you can see that compared to the rest, it's huge. And I took some photos just to kind of show you how much bigger it is compared to everything else. You can see it stacked up, how much bigger it is. You can see in the case, the width, how close it goes to the window is enormous. So make sure that you've got plenty of room. If you end up wanting to buy a Master, make sure you've got plenty of room to put it in your case. It is 149 millimeters wide. Top Gear maths, 15 centimeters wide. Shove it against your motherboard, and if you can't get, I actually think you're probably going to need 16.5 to 17 centimeters between your motherboard and your window to be able to get it in, because it's not just the graphics card that you have to think about. It is the power connector as well, and being able to loop it across, because we're not going to talk about putting 90-degree connectors on these anymore, are we, children? And then really the only other way that you've got of being able to fit this in your case, if you cannot fit it in normally, is a vertical mount. And then you are going to have that behemoth standing up in the side of your case. Now, obviously you've seen the size differences. the heatsink on this, or the cover where the fans are, it's all plastic. You do get a metal backplate, but it's all plastic. Best engineered graphics card out of the bunch has to be the Founders, because it's all aluminium, it weighs a ton, it is like the Batmobile, and if I'm honest, like, they all should have come like this from the start. This is so much nicer than the gunmetal grey. Like, this is the way I want them all to be. And because we're talking about this being black, I actually want to bring something up which really made me chuckle. If you want to make an Nvidia graphics card and you're lucky enough that they will sell you the chips so that you can make your own, they tell you how the box has to look. And you'll notice they've all got the green stripe on. They've all got you know it's an Nvidia graphics card because of all the green. But if you buy an Nvidia graphics card, the box is just black. So why is it one rule for everybody else, but you can do just a black box? Doesn't make any sense. Put a green stripe around it, put green on the side, make it look horrendous like all of those have to do. Make it fair. That's just a bit of fun, because I don't want the snipers to come looking for me because I've said it. Out of the 5, other than the Founders, the best build quality card has to go to the Strix, because even that faceplate on the front of the Strix is aluminium. Yes, it does have a plastic end because this bit lights up, but even that bit doesn't feel too plasticky. But the back plate is solid. You can see it's all machined and it's all lovely. It's how you would expect a Strix, because it's like they all look the same, but it does just need mentioning. The palette does what you'd want it to do. It cools well. It is all plastic other than the back plate. Massive cutouts for the fan covers. And then the Zotac is the skinny one. It's the baby. It's, compared to the others, it looks positively anemic, but it will fit in a narrow case. So that's something to keep in mind. If you've got an RTX case where the graphics card stands upright and you've got limited height, then you've got that to consider. You've seen the graph with the sizes, so you're going to know. But one of the things I will say, and I want to say, is with my phone pinging crazy, they don't sell white Zotac cards in the UK. Now, those curves and stuff I actually think really suit the white graphics cards well, and I wish they would start bringing them into the UK, because I actually really like the design, and it just annoys me because I like white stuff and that's nice and curvy and lovely, and it would suit well. So 1179, 1215, those 3 are 959. Now I'm going to start pinging up stuff onto here, which is performance results. Please make sure you pause if you want to see them. If you want more information, head over to the OC3D website. The link is underneath. There is lots more testing there. Now, first and foremost was clock speeds. And it was quite surprising from this point, because it pretty much, how that graph is how everything else is going to go for the rest of it. Most important thing to keep in mind though is the peak doesn't mean anything, because the peak can be a split second, and if the graph grabs hold of it and sees it, not the graph but we use GPU-Z, if it sees it then it will see that peak. It doesn't matter how long it's there for. The important one is the average, and that is because with an average, that's basic, you know, that's how fast it's running more often than not compared to everything else. And what we do, as we test it for half an hour, and we're very specific about doing it. And also, one of the things I do want to say is we do test real world. We don't have a test bench, as in an open air one. We have a case, we have a setup, we have an AIO. We try and test it how it would be when it's at yours at home. Fans in the front, fans out the top. How does it perform? Anyway, so clock speeds, but the performance pretty much followed suit with that clock speed graph. More often than not, the master was the top of the graph. And now this was a bit of an eye-opener for me, because yes, it is big, Yes, it is bold. Yes, it is brash, but I wasn't expecting it to consistently beat the overclocked Strix, because it is the 4080 Super OC that I have here. This is the flagship Asus card, and technically it's the most expensive one in the batch, but the Master did manage to beat it performance wise consistently. The other thing was the Master, I would hope so, with this massive heatsink, but it was cooler as well and quieter. Now, when we say quiet, obviously we test in a case with fans on. So at the end of the day, if I can't hear the graphics card, I open the door and I put my head in there when it's running, and that's how I test it, because more often than not, the case is louder than anything that's inside it anyway. So it was cooler and it was faster. So more often than not, the Gigabyte was first place. The Strix came in second, maybe sometimes 3 or 4 frames behind the Aorus, and then the other 3 were pretty much the same. So these being kind of the same is good, because obviously they're all 959. They just go about the same job in slightly different ways. I annoyingly really like the Founders Edition in black, like so much more. Those curves are lovely. So I'm going to stop talking about that one. The ones down the bottom, you might find them in SIs. You might end up like grabbing one from an e-tailer quick. We're kind of hoping we're past the scalping thing. I keep seeing people posting online about it, but I don't think we're going to get that anymore. But these are the two. If you want a card to show off in your window, going to build a rig around it, these are going to be the two. And in all honesty, the way I do see it is, if you've got an all ROG rig and you've bought a ROG case and you've spent £400 on an AIO, then you're just probably, if you want a 4080 Super, you're probably just going to buy the Strix or the Tough anyway, depending on whether you want loads of lights. And I think personally, like, the Strix is the one in the range in reality. But the Master, yes, you could put it on a Z790 Master motherboard if you've got one, or an X670E, it doesn't really matter. But I also see people wanting to mix and match this in with other brands that little bit more as well. People are going to say, where's MSI in the roundup? Well, we didn't get one. And as far as I know, I don't know whether I'm going to be getting one later on or not. So we're just going to leave it as, I would have tested it if there was one. There isn't one here, so I can't test it. So we're focusing on these ones. But like I said, with the Gigabyte, you just kind of have to be aware of how big it is. And beyond that, I'm going to let you decide. I'm going to let you decide what you think about the 4080 Super in general. I'm going to let you decide what you think about them when you put them side by side. I've done lots of testing for you. I've done a few late nights, and I would love to hear your feedback. Please remember to like, subscribe and comment. Let me know your thoughts underneath. I always keep an eye on the comments, and I try to help out as best as I possibly can. The only time when it gets complicated is I wish when you replied to me, YouTube would bump your comment up to the big comments list that I see. Otherwise, by the time I've got down like a week's worth of comments, I stop looking at that point, and I check them every day, but I have to go so much further down in case you reply, because I don't get notifications, and it annoys me, and it's something with the comment system that YouTube need to sort out. Anyway, these, yes, very expensive. You're going to have to make your peace on whether you want to spend that much or not, but at least we have 3 good options that look like they should be readily available in the market at MSRP and at 959. These do not shame themselves. And it's just going to be up to you which one you like the look of, is going to suit your rig, all of that sort of stuff. I think my favourite one out of them all, just for shock tactics, because I've never tested a Master before, is going to be the Master. Like, if you said to me, I've got just over £1,000 to spend, Tom, I have to have a Super, what one are you going to tell me to buy, as in you to buy? It would be this one. If it was my money, I'd want that one in white. And there isn't one, so God knows. Anyway, so I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you very much for tuning in. This has been the tiniest one, with another video for you out. Ding! I haven't done that in ages. Love you, sis.